Okay, as I remember, there were rivers of blood, plagues of toads. We had earthquakes, we had zombies. It was the freaking apocalypse. Then there was this blinding light and everything was sunshine and petunias. So what happened in between? Because that's where my memory is kind of fuzzy.
You don't want to know.
If I didn't want to know, I wouldn't ask.
Everyone podcasted.
Everyone? Did I podcast?
Everyone.
Welcome back to another episode of Smallography. It was a fun intro. I always like when we come out of them laughing. And I also like when we get more of a, I feel like I haven't been Twitch in a while. So
yeah, that's fair.
Always fun.
It's always fun to be kind of sullen Spawn too.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into reverting to this version of Spawn, but there's a lot of reversion happening.
We'll talk. I have some big thoughts on that. We'll get into it as podcasters always say, us included.
But before we do, George, how's your week going?
You know, it's only Tuesday, and it has already been 2 weeks this week. Everything in the world is fucked, and everyone who they put a microphone in front of is saying the craziest shit possible, just like driving us all to the brink of, like, they're trying to just do a Cold War speed run. Anyway,
it is truly insane. It does feel like a speed run, specifically because it's like, oh, all of you are now adults. Remember the thing that happened when you were kids? You get all the details. Right.
I have the strongest memories of that. I don't need to talk about where I was necessarily. It's nothing bad. Just don't need to necessarily get into all the details.
Yeah.
But I remember being with my friends watching the fucking bombs dropping on Iraq and the missiles hitting Iraq, being like, well, that's fucking us up for years to come. And I have the same feeling now. And anyway, you know what? It's been 2 minutes and I'm already fucking sick of talking about that.
That's fair.
So what the hell else have you been up to this week?
In happier news,
since we last
talked, Zoran has introduced a bill for $30 minimum wage here in Mamadanistan.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Which, you know what, calling New York that is slightly problematic. I understand, but we're taking it back, and that's why it's funny.
We're happy to live there now.
Listen, it's really funny. Everybody who's like freaking out is like pretty okay right now. Like, there's still I
know there's extremists that have ideological.
I mean, and also like Gracie Mansion almost got bombed this week. You know,
I saw someone threw a coffee can at it or whatever.
Things are pretty normal, but
it's all going to hell.
But a funny thing that happened is that some Instagram influencer who throws like a dart at the New York City, like a map of New York City, and goes to wherever the dart is, was in my area. And so that post has gone around people in my area. And as I've mentioned before about the area of Queens that I live in, it's not the most progressive, I'd say.
It's kind of white Queens.
It is. It's very like historically Italian, German, and Irish. And in recent years, much larger influx of more diverse cultures because people need jobs and need to get to Manhattan and whatever. But yeah, it's a very NIMBY, not in my backyard type neighborhood. And I posted a comment that was like, great bagels, great park, unfortunately Trumpy. And somebody posted like fortunately Trumpy, you mean? You need to be of a certain level of status to live here or whatever. And people were just like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
I don't
They're out in force. The worst people are
I
being the loudest.
don't have, you know, that I'm like annoyingly a New York City person who's like New York or fucking nowhere.
Right.
And I know it's annoying and it's fine, but not
Whatever.
for specifically where I grew up. Like,
Right.
and continue to live, to be clear. Like, it's kind of
Right.
everything around it. So when people have like, I don't know, there's people, they're protesting like locals are protesting a lithium battery farm
Good.
that's going to be nearby. So that's
I mean,
good.
that's a good fucking thing to protest. Absolutely.
So like
Dude,
sometimes it works out, but like sometimes it's like, all right, well,
the fucking cobalt mines in Africa and lithium mines in South America are some of the most horrific human rights, like, cesspool nightmares where people are just essentially enslaved and forced to work in like the most hazardous, devastating, like physically devastating conditions, and they all pay the price along with the environment. And it is an absolute atrocity that the oligarchs in charge of our reality have made it essentially a necessity to engage with the technology that derives from those
yeah,
materials.
I
Like,
think
I
I
couldn't
think
do my
people
job without a computer and a cell phone.
agreed. I mean, same here, you know. And I think what's interesting is that people look at a movie like Blood Diamond, right, which came out 20 years ago now, and they watch that movie and they go, "That's crazy." Only in the movies, and you're like,
No.
"No."
I mean, maybe
not,
that
not
particular
only are we
plot line, but
not only are we still like killing people over precious metals, but like we've added to the list. We just
there
keep
are,
adding
I
to the
mean, it
list.
is the worst. That my roommate recommended a book that I haven't finished yet. Well, I guess I just barely started it. It's called Red Cobalt, and
Mm.
it is about the cobalt mines in Africa. And like, from the conversations we were having when he was recommending it to me and the stuff I researched subsequently before getting into the book,
Harrowing. It's
it's
harrowing.
nightmarish. It's nightmarish. It's
It's
nightmarish. And look, that's what they want for all of us. And you know what? I have said enough radicalizing stuff. I know you were probably going to respond to that. And as proprietor, I will allow it. But
well,
yeah,
I
I
was just
just,
gonna say
man.
this is not a political podcast, so you know we have no
Oh, no, none of
no.
this is political.
uh, here's a funny thing that has happened is that my dad got free Islanders tickets, and
Oh, nice.
it's great. But he won them in in an auction, like at a charity auction. And I guess the person that donated them has season tickets, and they're like, "Oh, I'm away for all of March, so any of the March home games." And I was like, "Great." And so I picked a date, and they were like, "Not that one." I was like, "Fuck," because it was Sidney Crosby's playing. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer. I would be like, "Oh, it would be cool to see like a Hall of Famer play like one more time." He's
Gotcha.
older. He might retire soon. So they were like, "You can have this date or this date, and it's either this coming Thursday or Friday." And Friday's not great for me, or Pride Night. So my dad and I are going to Pride
Going
Night
to heated rivalry night down at the
it's
Islanders ice rink.
in a post-heated rivalry world, which my dad definitely has zero awareness of. We are going
Well,
to,
he's going to find out. He's gonna get a quick education on Pride Night. Hell yeah!
yeah.
Honestly, I'm extremely jealous that I don't get to go to the hockey game on Pride Night. Like,
I'm
I
pretty
can't
excited to go.
imagine a better intersection of the two intersecting sides of my identity,
I would just,
which is of course jock and loser.
yeah,
I'm the least jock person
I,
in the world.
I don't know if I should say something to my dad beforehand or let him walk in blind. As my parents are both pretty conservative Christians, and so I don't know if I have to give him a little bit. There's no way we can't get. We already have the tickets, so it's not like I can't.
Right.
But I also don't want him to be like, "Oh, that's okay. You should go with somebody else." I almost want to like be like, "No." This is exposure therapy.
You could just be like, "Oh
Oh,
wow,
I didn't
huh,
know. Huh.
huh. Well, that's cool." Just, just no sell them on it. Just be like, "Wow, well, it's cool. Let's stick around. I'm gonna have
I want
30
to.
beers."
I also. I want to be clear also that my dad would never be like outwardly bigoted. He's a
No,
very
I'm sure he wouldn't go in and be like, "Oh, I have to be in your face." He'd probably just be like,
he'd be like,
"Oh,
The bunch of these slurs really like hockey, huh?"
shit."
No, he doesn't even
The
curse.
slur being hockey head,
Yeah. Uh,
the
no,
H word.
the H word, he double hockey sticks is how he says hell actually. So
Is it really?
no, that
Wow.
would be crazy.
It would be, I mean, look, I've talked at length about the Southern and like the Southern Baptist and Southern Christian like aspects of my childhood, and you would be surprised how many fucking weird youth pastors will just go out of their way to not say like anything. Like they'll never say hell. They'll be like, you're gonna go to the down place and like just point down quietly, and we would all know what that means. Every once in a
The
while the big
basement.
preacher would say hell. The church did have a shitty basement, so that might have been what he meant. I don't know.
The church I went to growing up was in an Elks Lodge, so the basement was a bowling alley.
Okay. Every time you reveal a new Pierce fact about like some weird aspect of your childhood, I'm just like, sure. Okay. I mean, I had weird shit going on in my childhood. Like I have as many every time I tell my coworkers at my job, which I should specify, their opinions, my opinions do not reflect their opinions at
Oh,
all.
good, good, good. Glad we got that out of the way.
Just honest to God, I know that's weird to hear, but there it is.
Oh, honest to
Anytime I
God, you
tell
mean?
my oh yeah, I'm so sorry. No, they would say God. Um, you know how Christians can pronounce him with a capital H?
Yeah, the real emphasis on the H. So you're like, okay.
Him.
Do you think they're getting confused now that him has become slang? Oh, he's him.
Is it? I can't even
You
keep.
want
Oh,
to know
I get
about
it.
this?
Okay. No, oh no, no. Okay, I get it now. I get it. Yes, I do. I do know that. The way you said he's him, I was just like, you can just have the normal ones, he, him. You can just have the regular pronouns. And when you said him has become slang, I thought you meant the way people are like, I don't got
Well,
pronouns. I
that's
don't
also the other
say
funny
pronouns.
thing is they'll be like, praise him, but I don't
Yeah.
believe in pronouns.
Well, they don't know that pronouns are part of speech. They've just been,
That's true.
even if they did, a lot of people are susceptible to certain types of rhetoric because the only shit they remember is from elementary school,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they only half remember it. I mean, shit, I'm not even saying I remember my whole elementary school. I can't do fucking math with a pen.
You're supposed to use a pencil for a reason.
Well, even that, I have spent many nights crying over numbers. Anyway, not the podcast ones. Thank you, listeners.
And not the show with David Krumholtz.
No, never fucking saw that one. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's the one where is it Joshua Jackson and David Krumholtz are like brothers, and one's good at numbers and one's a detective or something? Do you
Okay,
know who David
I
Krumholtz
vaguely.
is?
Oh yeah, of course I know who
Okay,
David
okay.
Krumholtz is.
Respect to David Krumholtz, Queen's legend.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I love guy I like to see David Krumholtz. I'm always like, oh, it's David Krumholtz. It's not that part. It's I don't even remember what the fuck we were talking about now.
We were talking about
David
numbers
Krumholtz.
and
Oh, numbers.
homework.
Yes, I'm sorry. I got so focused on David Krumholtz and thinking of other things David Krumholtz was in. I remember the trailers for it and it being one of those things where it looked like he had math vision or
Yeah,
something and just being like, I don't care about this.
yeah. Also, it's not Joshua Jackson. It's some man named Rob Morrow. I don't know who that
Okay.
is.
Joshua Jackson was in Fringe, which I never finished, but
That's
it
what
was
I was
pretty good.
confusing it with.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Fringe, pretty good. Kind of a
never
fun
watched.
successor to the X Files.
Hmm.
but
Some
very based in a different side of high strangeness.
somebody posted a meme that's like the clip from Twin Peaks: The Return with Laura Dern in the red wig,
Oh
and
yeah,
Kyle MacLachlan saying like, you know, hey, we might not come back the same from this or whatever while they're driving, and then right after it's just Scully and Mulder also driving in a car in like the same seats. It's like, oh,
that's funny.
that's
I
fun.
like it.
Anyway, we have two issues that are two of three issues for this arc to cover today, called The Voice Hearers. And
Great stuff. What a boy, that sounds like a fucking like death rock band that would be playing in my town.
it feels like a
Or like a
placeholder
70s psych
title
rock band or something. Yeah.
that then they were like,
They
I
couldn't
don't know.
figure out the listeners would have been better.
Yeah, actually, it would be. It was right there.
The voice hearers, it seemed like they wanted to be more specific than listeners, but couldn't put their finger on it.
What's weird is like, I mean, every issue does have a name. So like, issue 1 is Skin Deep. Issue
Okay.
2 is the Peanut Butter Lady. I'm not making this up. And issue 3 is Laughter in the Dark.
The
But
peanut butter lady makes me think. Have you ever seen the movie The Peanut Butter Solution? It was like a
no,
Canadian TV movie from the early or mid 80s. It is a fucking crazy movie about this kid who's in maybe like elementary school, middle school, or high school, rather, who goes to this factory and sees some weird shit, and it scares him so bad that he can't remember what it is, and all his hair falls out
many such cases. That's
and
what
he
happened to
goes
me.
bald. And they tell him that he suffers from, I think they say it's harem scarum.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, and it's quite a condition. Well, maybe this would work for you if you wanted to. Then he discovers this concoction made with peanut butter that they call the eponymous peanut butter solution, that he rubs on his head, and it makes his hair grow, but it won't stop growing. And he goes to the place where he got it. I think this is kind of how that goes. I know the part his hair won't stop growing,
Sounds like a
and
Goosebumps episode.
it very much is like a proto Goosebumps type story. Okay, he goes back to the place where he got the solution or whatever, and this guy like kidnaps him and puts him in this factory where he has all these kids growing infinite hair that he is cutting off to turn into paintbrushes.
Oh my god.
It is truly off the hook. Like I don't even know what I was trying to say there. It is fucking off the wall. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, that
It
does
is.
remind me a little bit of like what I watched a movie this weekend called Abruptio.
Okay.
Do you know it?
No.
Well, it's a movie where I mean, I'll
I
basically.
mean, yes, but tell the listener.
So it stars as voice actors
Okay.
Jordan Peele. It is a live action film, kind of. And what I mean is,
Okay.
it is filmed in our real world. However, it is using life size puppets that
Oh,
can blink and move their mouths and are human
okay.
sized. Voiced by James
Okay.
Marsters, Christopher McDonald, Jordan Peele, a bunch of other actors. Basically,
Weird.
a down on his luck guy who's kind of a loser, works a boring day job where he seemingly staples blank pieces of paper together. Uh, Wakes up one day and realizes that he has stitches on the back of his neck and a bomb has been implanted at the base of his skull. And he gets a mysterious text message that starts telling him to do stuff. It's on Tubi. This is an early
Okay. Oh,
recommendation.
great. A Tubi.
It's not a Tubi original. It's not made by
No.
Tubi.
No, I'm sure.
It is
But Tubi has
truly one
great
of the
stuff.
most insane 90 minutes I have spent watching a film. If you like Stephen Kostansky type, like Frankie Frico, Psycho Gorman, plus like Michel Gondry, it is just a mind fuck of a movie. It's so weird, but it's so cool. And it came up it's on my mind, not just because I watched it, but because a friend was posting some stuff about like, oh no, like some company like AI actors is gonna be a thing. And like I was like, listen, bruh, that's a
It's
sponsored
probably
post that
cheaper to do the fucking puppets.
I was like, that's a sponsored post that you shared. So you're just sharing AI propaganda. It is working on you, clearly. But also, AI could never make this. I'm not worried about AI quite yet on that level.
No, I mean, environmentally, it's
Oh,
pretty fucking
terrible. Fucking terrible. And fuck Ben Affleck for his recent interview where he's like, don't worry, AI is not
dude.
doing anything. And meanwhile, he just sold his AI company to
So
fucking
I know
Warner Brothers, like, or
it's
Netflix or whatever the
all
fuck. It's all a fucking work. Fuck
fucked.
them all.
It's all fucked. Well, the entire world's money supply is wrapped up in it now because they're just promising billionaires they'll never have to pay another human being again. And so the billionaires are like, if we can do that, this is what all that money is for.
Yeah, that's
But it's we don't need to get back into all that right now. There's plenty of podcasts you can turn to
yeah.
that are political. None of this is political. None of what Pierce and I are saying is don't think that it's
Apolitical
political.
podcast. Apolitical podcast.
No, yes, not even be political.
Won't see me being political.
Exactly, not political. I just have some very specific leftist beliefs,
uh,
not political.
well, we've got a couple of issues here.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and Pierce hit me with those credits?
Yeah, yeah, okay. By the way, new trade dress. By the way, for Spawn at this point. Uh, if you flip to the back of your compendium, we're in the new Spawn logo era. We've gotten rid of the old Spawn logo, and we have a new sort of trade dress going on, which is actually kind of cool. I like it. I think that the logo is not that inspired, but whatever, it's fine. I get it. Anyway, this is Spawn number 166. Tom McFarlane Image Comics present The Voice Hearers, Part 1, Skin Deep, story by David Hine, pencils and inks by Brian Haberlin, lettering by Tom Warzakowski, colors by Andy Troy, production by Jay Photos, Francis Takanaga, Diana Sanson, cover by Greg Capullo, Spawn editors Brian Haberlin and Todd McFarlane. The previously on Spawn is a recap of that whole long, like 10 issue arc that we just covered, 10 plus issue arc that
Yeah,
we just covered.
Spawn ended the world, rebirthed it, cut off from heaven and hell, but it turns out there may be a touch of hell left.
Yeah, and that even though he put things back the right way, his curse has not been lifted, and that
Yeah, he has to
and
do penance for his misdeeds in his previous life still.
right, and misdeeds still in pretty heavy quotes because
Yeah,
as
you can
it's
go back to our last episode and listen to it and get some perspective on that. We don't necessarily need to recap it right here.
yeah, but basically now Al is of the thinking that he didn't realize what he had done in life to the extent that he had done it, and that his curse is something that he deserves. So he has gone back to the alleys, and the world as we know it kind of is relatively perfect, except for we get like a Cain and Abel type first sin story
Yeah,
at the
and
very end.
there are some details of that that are explained in this issue
Yes.
that made me feel stupid about my interpretation of the previous issue,
All right. Well,
and that's fine.
yep.
But it's a minor thing, but we'll talk about it. So okay, Spawn number 166 and 167 are largely a series of horror vignettes, all of which take place in a single apartment building. The reason why is revealed in the course of the story, but that's really what it is. There's, of course, some Spawn stuff, but it's almost sort of an episodic, like, tour of this hell gate, like a hell opening,
It's a haunted
basically.
house.
Yes, and it is sort of an Amityville apartment building
Yeah.
type situation, if you want to think of it that way. Um, Amityville, though, Ronald DeFeo Jr. just murdered his family for no reason because he wanted to for money. No ghosts involved.
Oh, and then Paris Hilton was in the movie, right?
There's a lot of people in a lot. It has like 11 or
Yeah.
12 Amityville horror movies. Forgot to say it earlier too, but James Marsters, by the way, never forget that he wrote a song about underage Michelle Trachtenberg's feet while they were both working on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's really something, and his defenders are always like, he didn't mean it like that. And
I don't know.
it's pretty rough.
I'll say this: feet people tend to be the most serious. Look at Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino, boy, we don't even need to get into Quentin
I know
Tarantino
you're a
right
big
now.
fan, so
Oh, well, I mean, to be honest, he's made some great movies. I can't say he hasn't. Pulp Fiction remains kind of a cult favorite for me in a way. It's a movie I watch every few years, and every few years I'm like, man, jeez.
it doesn't
And then
even
I'm like,
doesn't
I
kind
do
of
like
doesn't
that
even
movie.
rank for me for him.
You know why? It's
Inglorious
because,
Bastards is my favorite of his
oh yeah,
oeuvre.
okay, so it's two things. One, I saw Pulp Fiction way too early. My
Mm,
stepdad got it on VHS, and I watched it like immediately. And I can't remember exactly what year it came out, but I was
94.
like 94, so I would have been like 12 years old probably by the time, maybe 13. And I was probably 13 by the time I watched it, maybe close to that. And it just was like one of the first like real adult movies
Yeah,
that I watched and was like, "Oh, I get what's going on in this, even the fucked up parts."
that's how I felt about
So I have a
Requiem
lot
for a
of,
Dream.
oh yeah, I watched that in high school too when it came out, and it didn't make that big an impression on me. And then later I found out people were like super horrified by it, and I just remember thinking like, I don't know, it's kind of boring. Watched it again later, and I got it, but I was like, yeah, I don't know, don't think it's a great movie.
It's also not my favorite Aronofsky if I have to pick, but we're getting off topic
No,
already.
yeah.
Um,
So we'll circle it back. We'll circle it back to Spawn 166. Um, yeah. So right off the bat, what I want to say is what I was leading up to with that is talking about the vignettes or whatever is this feels a lot more like a arc of Hellspawn
mm,
to me
I
in a
agree.
lot of ways, including like Haberlin being the guest artist, which he has his ups and downs, and we'll talk about it. I think by and large, especially in these two issues, his art works. It is very Brian Boland in these opening pages, where
It's Brian Bolland, a little Stefano Caselli, I'd say. Not that that would be an influence at this point, but like if I'm gonna
and as
relate
a
it as
retrospective
a sort of
reference, yeah.
retrospective reference, I
It's
would
got a very strong, thick kind of line,
yeah,
like heavy shadow, or rather heavy shadows combined with sparse use of hatching and stuff.
correct. A
It works,
very
and the
killing
colors are
joke,
good.
as you said. So
Yeah. So we open on Cecilia Eddowes. And there's something interesting about that, which is that Catherine Eddowes was one of the victims of Jack the Ripper, which just might be a little
I think
Easter
that's
egg
on
here.
on purpose, yeah.
Yeah. Celia Eddowes has been picking her fingers since she was 10 years old, and it shows her kind of scratching at her cuticles. And basically, it goes on to talk about how her doctor says it's stress. She doesn't pull her hair out or bites her nails, but since the white light, she can't stop the picking. Now, first off, I'll say this strikes into a very specific, like, sort of nerve. I know people who have obsessive, compulsive, like, skin picking sort of symptoms, and it can be very tough. And so, like, that's a very real thing. And now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this story pathologizes a
Everything.
lot of very real human things as hellish sin or something hellish inside a person that can be exploited by sin. And we'll get into that as we go. But that seems to be kind of the building theme as we'll meet all these people here. This, by the way, will quickly be revealed as the same apartment building where that the guy bashed in his roommate's head. Anyway, it shows her picking deeper and deeper at her fingernails until she's or cuticles until she's finally started chewing the finger off of her nails entirely or off of her fingers entirely. We see her moving through her kitchen with her hands in front of her all bloody, and She says it feels like her hands belong to someone else, as if she isn't really responsible for what they do at all. And she picks up a kitchen knife and sees her reflection in it. I particularly like these opening pages by Brian Haberlin, and even by, I like David Hines' script. What I was going to say about pathologizing things as sinful or hellish or whatever is we're going to get over that, or not get over it, but discuss it right now and just say we don't necessarily need to take the time to get into every time it's like reflective of some like upsetting real world thing, but
I mean,
we just need to sort of accept right now that pretty much all of these have some level of like, well, that's weird and problematic.
I think that what Heinz kind of getting at is that these behaviors have some root of evil, which is
Right.
incorrect. However, in the
Exactly.
real world, but if we can no prize it, Spawn put the world back wrong.
And we'll find out how in throughout this story. But yes, no, that's what I was going to say is we just kind of have to accept that
It's the reality
the
of this
intent
story.
the intent in a lot of this is not to make a certain thing look bad, but there are times where it really fucking does.
We'll get
And right
into
off the bat,
that
it
one.
pinged me with the obsessive compulsive thing, but I'm not like pissed off about it. I use that as an example of like there's some stuff in here that just overall
Yeah.
feels kind of problematic. But it is also a true horror story. It's not like these are real world consequences. It's like
The other
this.
thing, my other kind of no prize here though is that this is how these things feel. So like when I was in high school, I did have trilectomania, which is when you pull your hair
Mm,
out.
yeah,
Ironic because I'm bald now, but yeah, like I pulled. I would get so stressed out that I would like pull out like in one very specific spot to the point where like I had a bald spot at like
yeah,
15, and my parents were like, "What the fuck?" And it does feel like this. It does feel
yeah,
like you're in a fucking Twilight Zone episode or like a Tales from the Crypt or a Goosebumps or like a
absolutely. Well,
and it does feel. I actually love this part of David Hines' script that says like the hand feels like it belongs to someone else because it doesn't
oh yeah.
feel like a thing that you're doing to yourself. It doesn't feel like a negative thing. So,
Let me be clear. I agree with you
mhm,
100% that I mean I've had my own issues with mania and depression and other, I'm not shy about the fact that I live with very strongly treated mental illness.
dyscalculia.
Uh that is a symptom of ADHD. I do indeed have dyscalculia and anyway, or dyscalculia, I guess it's pronounced like dyslexia, but
Whatever.
dyscalculia. Um, Either way, uh, and so I agree that like yes, there are things about this that sort of ping off to me. This is really the tip of the iceberg with that. Not to make a
Yes,
joke
that's
about
true.
the fingers, but again, I guess my larger point is these are true horror stories, and so we kind of just have to accept that there are elements here that are going to feel weird. That said, there are parts of it I'm not going to accept, and we'll talk about that. Moving
Agreed.
forward, I want to say one last thing about this opening sequence here as we're moving into it is that the pacing of this and even some of the framing of it feels very Junji Ito.
Yeah.
Like if you've read Uzumaki, which by the way, early recommendation, one of the greatest, if not the greatest horror comic of the last like 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah.
Uh so good, so good, and it is so stunningly viscerally horrifying, especially with the tone of the art here. It really has that feeling. Now we catch up. She lives in apartment 13, Celia Eddowes. We catch up with Joey, her suitor, I suppose, who is knocking on her door. As he sees, as he is knocking on her door, he sees a woman creeping out of her apartment, an old woman carrying a thing of roach kill, a spray bottle of roach kill, and she's just kind of creepily like lurks right there. And as he's looking at her, Celia opens the door. Joey asks if he can come in. She sort of begs him off. She says, "I'm sorry. I guess I forgot you were coming over. I'm kind of busy." he sees she's wearing these long opera gloves, and he's like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, they were my mother's. Do you like them? Ladies wear them to the opera." And he tries to touch her hand, and she says, "No, don't. I have a rash." And he says, "Don't cover it. You should let it breathe." And he says, "Have you been to a doctor?" They go on about this. He says he's worried about her, and she says, "Go home, Joey. I'll call you tomorrow," and closes the door. These last three panels of this, of him
Kind of dejected and then walking off, and then
like
we get
sulking off. Not sulking sounds petulant, but like, yes, doing the Charlie Brown walk down this like filthy, dilapidated hallway with
bugs coming out of the
then the
wall.
focus on the cracks with all the roaches and bugs coming out.
And one
These
specific one.
panels has a symbol we'll recognize, which is a blue M painted on its back. Just a clue. We won't spell it out yet. But these three photos in particular look like crime scene photos, literally.
Hmm.
I There was this book that a friend of mine had when I was an edgelord teenager called a homicide detective scrapbook. Maybe it had a full title, but that was at least a subtitle. And it was these like photos of this homicide detective in New Orleans from like the fucking teens through the 30s or 40s, something like that. And it was just horrifying stuff. Like I'm not making this a recommendation. It's a fascinating and well put together book, but it is also pretty traumatic to look at.
Yeah, Death Scenes, a homicide
Death
detective
scenes,
scrapbook
yes.
from 2000 by Sean Tejerachi and Catherine Dunn.
It is a fascinating and incredibly well put together book full of photos that will traumatize you.
Honestly, across this, Salmon Twitch, and Hellspawn, I am almost certain that this book was probably
It
referenced.
had to have been.
Had to have
It
been.
had to have been. It was incredibly popular among edgelords, myself included. Um, I think it would absolutely destroy my stomach.
Honestly, probably even like Torso and some of the Brian Michael Bendis
Oh,
crime
absolutely.
comics as well.
Well,
All those
I'm
guys,
positive
Brubaker as
that
well.
that that Bendis in particular was tuned into a lot of that true crime stuff because of Torso, Bendis and Draco.
Yeah.
And I believe Mark Andreyko, was he an attorney?
No.
Or am I mixing? No, I'm mixing that up. Never mind. Never mind. Um. Anyway, he walks off and she closes the door. We don't see what's going on inside or exactly why she's wearing the gloves, though. Given what we know, we can kind of assume. Meanwhile, Twitch shows up at Chikatilo Imports, which we discussed. Andre Chikatilo killed like 50 something people in Russia because Russian authorities refused to admit that serial killers could exist in late stage Soviet Russia. So I don't know. Don't know anything like what that kind of shit is like. Late stage economic model government.
We couldn't
So
know.
yeah. Twitch is like, "Al, I followed the bugs. I know you're in there." And he draws his gun and he says, "I'm coming in." And Al has just made this place a web of chains, like Hellraiser
Yeah.
style, just like horrifying hanging chains. And Twitch pushes his way through them and he's like, "Shit." I want to say I really appreciate the way the colors and line work together through this
Everything is
issue.
super muted, super pulled back. The spot colors that we get are mostly reds where appropriate. We
Yes.
do get the
A little
blue
bit of blue on that
on
one.
that
Yep.
one bug, but for the most part, and we're getting a little yellow for light when we need it. But yes, it's super pulled back. It's almost black and white. Very, very uh just kind of
Yeah.
subtle, honestly, and I have to agree with you that the pacing and the line work in this first issue is really, really strong. Brian Bolland's a great call out for that.
David Hine also, I want to circle back and just say, I do like his prose and his script and the way he's bringing
Agreed.
these things in. It's that larger metaphor that at times makes me go, but
It feels like
not yet so
he's
much.
gotten through some of the like, ugh, I finally got through all the bullshit I had to do to try to tell a story I want to tell. That said, as we continue to get into it. I'm like, is this the one you really wanted to tell, or are we just kind
You
of,
know,
or are you still a little bit of a mercenary here? Because as we're going to find out, this arc acts as a way to get a lot of pieces back on the board on some level
yeah.
that I do think ends up being a little bit awkward, and that the execution ends up not totally serving it. But at this point, a quarter of the way through this issue, it's kind of working for
It's,
me.
yeah.
I love
We'll
this.
discuss more of
This,
that
yeah,
later.
this splash page rules of
Oh, it looks like
Spawn.
a fucking black metal album cover in a positive way. Spawn is just sunk in shadows on his
His
throne.
head is
You
basically
can
a skull now. He's got a little rat on his on the arm of his throne.
He's got like creatures lurking all around him. You see all the little eyes, little
The
rats and other
bats and
insects and
stuff.
shit. Bats, the creatures of the night that carry the evil. This is fucking sick.
So cool.
And I love how dark and like murky it is because there's so much texture in it that you can see that like you can see the like aspects of his cape that are also kind of integrated into the throne. He's just like very much in this almost like chain cocoon. And I love like the texture of like the rivulets of like ichor and veins and roots stretching out across the floor.
Totally.
That's where you'd expect to see the like illegible like pile of wood style like metal logo.
Yeah.
And Al just says, "What are you doing here? What do you want from me, Max?" And Twitch says, "I came to see how you're doing. That's what friends do." And Al says, "I don't have any friends."
Yeah.
And
And
Twitch is kind of like, "Well, I remember you said we were us and Sam."
yeah, and they're just he's we're basically we're gonna use this conversation to recap what just kind of happened in the Armageddon arc, which is that
Pretty
everybody
solid recap, actually.
totally fine. If this was the first issue of Spawn that you picked up, you would not be completely lost.
No, you'd want this is the kind of thing that would make me want to go back and find those
100%.
issues because it explains enough of what happened without going through a like and then this and then this
Yeah.
and then
We're
this
talking more
that
about
you
how it
go
affected the characters and what that means for them.
right.
And like Twitch's questions here are like, wait, everyone died? Did I die?
Yeah.
Because
He says,
what
you know, Al
essentially happened in Armageddon is that everybody did die, and Al came
Al
back
put the
and
world back
put it all
together.
back together, and they all came back to life. So
And he sealed off Earth from heaven and hell, theoretically.
yeah,
And here Twitch is questioning him. He said, "You said if you didn't come back, you pretty much implied that the world would come to an end." And Spawn is just like, "It did. Here's the tea." And Twitch is begging him to tell him, basically. He's like, you gotta tell me. And Spawn is like, "Look, you don't want to know." And they kind of have that exchange that we did at the top where Spawn says everyone died. And Twitch is like, "Even me?" And he's like, "Everyone." And it's another one of those things where like Twitch saw hell over the course of the last like maybe 50 issues of Spawn or so. Sam and Twitch, but especially Twitch, has been brought deeper and deeper into the like the hellish madness and the actual like demonic nature of everything because of his son becoming a vampire and like the hellmouther or whatever that was in that like that hell stronghold. And he even stepped foot in hell. And now imagine the effect this has to have on Twitch's psyche
yeah,
to understand like this fucking corpse I hang out with apparently brought the entire reality of Earth back to life. And so he says he's kind of reeling with the fact that Spawn is telling him there's no more God and no more devil. They've been banished to a space beyond time and reality. And Twitch is just like, no more God. Which, like, I love his reaction. He says, "My God, I know. No more God. I just, my God."
yeah.
Again, good scripting. So anyway,
Also,
Spawn is kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Brian Haberlin's Twitch is it's a handsome guy. Got a
He's
square.
kind of a zaddy.
Yeah, he's got a little square jaw going on there. He used to be this
He's
like
got a nicer mustache.
real pencil thin guy before, but
I'm going to say this. I think Brian Haberlin, who has colored many issues of Spawn, wanted to see Sam and Twitch in a very heroic way.
mm,
And I think probably took this opportunity to draw them as the character archetypes he wants to see them as. A little more like the Shield, a
He's
little less
Commissioner
Laurel
Gordon.
and Hardy. Yes, absolutely. It's a little, he's 100% Commissioner Gordon, but leaning into that instead of the like sort of caricatured nature
Yeah.
of them. I think he's very purposeful in that. And it has its ups and downs, but I think that's very intentional.
I think also it lends itself to the severity of the situation, right? This is like a very,
Right.
like, hey, this is a horror story. Well, then you don't want your characters looking silly. You don't want them to be Bulk and Skull from Power Rangers that have like a
Right.
a tuba as their theme song. Yeah, you
I
know.
love Bulk and Skull,
I
by the
mean,
way.
me too. But
Transgender kings.
but no, they're great. But like what I'm saying is like this story has to be played at the right pitch,
This
at
is
the
the
right
least
qual, at the right
90s
pitch.
looking art we've seen in the mainstream Spawn yet, I think.
Yeah, and
I just about, I think.
I think
And
that weirdly, not weirdly, but like we're so used to very stylized art from Spawn, and this is the most kind of like straight down the middle, almost photorealistic, quote unquote.
there's maybe some Steve Epting in here who was really doing big work around this time on Captain America with
Great
Brubaker.
pull,
So
great pull. I was also going to say a little Alex Maleev, a
mhm,
little bit,
mhm.
because Daredevil would have been a couple years before this, and some of the sort of splatter and texture.
Those palettes,
Yeah,
the limited palettes are very Bendis Maleev Daredevil. I
yeah,
mean, great influences for this.
sure.
Honestly, I quite like Brian Haberlin's art through most of this. There are little spots like, okay, Al is like, does that suit you? I fixed it. You have your world back. Now leave me alone. And Twitch is like, well, I guess you did a good job, but I can't help wondering how come you're sitting here in the dark and in what is not the most desirable of locations. And Spawn just snatches him up with his cape. And here, where Twitch is kind of getting snatched up with the cape, this little sequence of Twitch doesn't quite
It doesn't.
come together. Like
It's
the
awkward.
panels where he's wrapped up are a little awkward. You can kind of tell that Haberlin maybe hasn't drawn as much like sequential action sequences,
He's a little stiff.
but it's okay.
It's.
It's okay.
I think it still
Overall, it
works,
really works.
and I love
It's
this.
legible, and the storytelling is very
Yeah, and I
legible.
love the panel of Spawn growling at
With all the
roaring,
fucking worms
yeah,
coming out of him, going
roaring
all
at
large,
Twitch.
large at him.
That the reason that he is here is because he deserves this, and Twitch
He
says
says, "You
no,
don't
but he
know what I've
does, and
done."
he says, yeah, you don't know what I've done. I want to say also we didn't really call it out, but I said before that Spawn looked like a skull, and we actually do get panels of the K7 Letha mask kind of coming over his face. And so his face now, when he's in his sort of like rested form, is that skull.
It is, and the white kind of shape of the mask now sort of follows in Haberlin's version the contours of the skull. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think it is actually really, really cool to see Brian Haberlin pencil these issues, all for its ups and downs, because he's worked on Spawn so much that you know he has to have been thinking for years about
Yeah.
how he would do Spawn, he would do Sam and Twitch, he would do even some other Spawn characters that we'll get into. And I think he kind of nails those parts of this series, this
I
story.
think he knows how. I think he knows like, oh, I can't do Capullo, I can't do McFarlane, I can't do Medina as the big three at this point. What can oh, and I can't do Ashley Wood for sure, because the tone of
Right.
this definitely feels more like you said in that vein. What can I do? And I think that this like when he nails the kind of small, he does typically nail the smaller acting and the really good panel to panel pacing across
The
both of these
pacing is
issues.
very filmic in
Yeah.
a way. Like it's great storytelling. I'll say this. If I could have a choice between everything being like perfectly rendered or everything being perfectly legible, I will take legible every time,
Agreed.
because so much of this is very well rendered, and the things that are not as good so far are just, they're fine. It's there's no mystery about what's happening in the panels, and that works. Again, a lot of Steve Epting in this pacing too, I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's got that kind of like thriller kind of vibe. So Twitch is kind of explaining that, like, well, I know you said there's no heaven and no hell, but like maybe you kind of did things wrong because crazy shit is happening. He says, I'm not blaming you. I can't even put a set of flat pack furniture together, so I'm not judging you. And Spawn says, what are you talking about? Cut to the chase. They explain the guy who bashed in his roommate's head with a statue of Stan Laurel, of Laurel and Hardy, which I think Haberlin renders a little better here.
Agreed.
The thing that kind of threw me off in the previous issue was that the face of the doll looked so much like the face of the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that is maybe intentional, that they're like, oh, they're Laurel and Hardy,
Yeah, I think
like
it's probably a little
ones
bit
to put upon
intentional.
straight man. I think the metaphor stands.
Sure.
They're a pair of like mishap bound doofuses or whatever, except it just escalated to fucking murder. Anyway,
Would it have
they're
worked to
questioning
have
him.
the guy watching like one of those famous duos?
Yeah,
I think it might have helped.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how many Spawn readers are like, oh yeah, Laurel and Hardy.
I mean, I know Laurel and Hardy, and I still wasn't like,
Like,
oh, that's Laurel and
that's what
Hardy.
I mean. I don't
You know what I
know.
mean?
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, say it so many times. Anyway, they interview the guy, Twitch and Sam, and he's saying, they're saying, why did you do it? Ruben, the guy's name is Ruben, and he just says, where do I start? And he just goes on about all this irritating roommate behavior, not doing the dishes, all that kind of shit.
Very odd couple.
And yeah, he says, do you know how irritating that is? And Twitch says, in your case, I'm guessing very. And here's where this guy turns into a fucking like modern conservative. He says, hey, I'm a tolerant kind of guy, detective, but today there is a line, and that line was crossed. And it's like, okay, man. And Twitch is kind of saying he killed him because he left the toothpaste off. And Spawn is just like, well, look, man, I didn't change human nature. People do bad things. I can't get rid of that. That's never been within my power. And Twitch is like, well, it kind of gets fucking weirder. And he goes on about more stuff that's happened in this apartment building. They meet this little girl who has a roach on her tongue
Ugh.
that has the same little blue M. And this guy who's walking in, going to see, it's Joey. He's going in to see his girlfriend, Celia Eddowes, and he meets this little girl in the elevator who has the roach with the blue M on her tongue. He's like, okay, this is fucking weird, and he's trying to talk to her, and she says, and she just doesn't say anything. And he's like, well, I guess your mother told you not to talk to strangers, which
That's fair.
I don't talk to children generally, unless I have some, perfectly legitimate reason to. Um, anyway, he's like, I know you're in here, Celia. I've got your spare key. I'm coming in. The lights are all out. And he says, Celia, what happened to the lights? He turns on the lights over her stove, and he sees the black opera gloves all soaked in blood. And he's saying, Celia, talk to me. What's going on? And she says, she's fully in silhouette. And she
This
says,
is paced out so well.
it's so good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This is like good horror
Yeah.
comics. Again, it feels like a vignette
Mhm.
or a short story from Junji Ito,
Yeah.
like a very like the strange enigma of Amigara Fault kind of thing. My favorite Junji Ito story, by the way.
Good one.
Fucking terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. She says, I did something, and she's fully in silhouette. And he says, oh my God, what did you do?
If she was a true millennial, she would have said, I did a thing.
Yeah. Adulted today.
And he's horrified.
There's blood everywhere.
There's blood everywhere. Blood in a cup.
Knife. There's a bloody knife.
Bloody knife.
And we see her arms sitting there.
She says, you aren't going to like me anymore. It doesn't. And he says, it doesn't matter what you've done, Celia. I love you. That's why I came to tell you I love you no matter what. She says, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. again, for folks with OCD, we understand that this is
A
not.
terror. And I mean, this is not a unique story here.
Yeah.
Look, there are people who have done this on drugs, and that's real
Oh
and
yeah.
terrifying. Where, like, I mean, that's the thing that happens. So, again, I guess when I was talking about it initially, I wasn't trying to say, like, this in particular is extremely problematic. It's just the first domino in a series of things leading up to something that I think is extremely problematic.
Yeah, I agree.
And we need to get through all this stuff with the acceptance that, like, these are horror stories, these are psychological terror, and that is the
And
point.
the point of them
Because
is
what
to be
happens next
uncomfortable.
is
Yeah.
she says, I had to see what's underneath, and she has picked off all the skin, all the way up her arms, all the way across her chest, all the way up her neck, and all the way across her face. So, like, her skeleton and muscle and ligaments are exposed.
Yeah.
And it is such a terrifying splash page to end this on.
Kind of rules.
It's a great, like, ending. Again, for a horror story, it's great.
Yep. And I also love that it's not rendered with medical accuracy, because like it doesn't technically make sense. Like if you tear off the muscles and ligaments of your fingers, like you can't move your fingers. So
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see that, like, her finger bones are just kind of splayed out.
I
And
mean, when she's like in that last page, she would have to be able to move them that way.
yeah,
But
well, she does have the, like, this doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter.
She has the tendons at the base knuckle,
It doesn't matter.
which is where you would move your hands like that.
That's true.
So
Anyway,
doesn't
really
fucking
cool.
matter. It's a horror
Yeah,
story,
exactly.
and she would not be alive necessarily if she had taken
If
off
she had ripped her own nose
essentially
off.
50% of
Yeah.
her skin. Yeah, and it is a strikingly horrific image to
And I
end
think that
on.
that's one of the worst things about this Spawn comic is that it's not very realistic to real life. I think that one of the things that it should be doing is being as accurate to real life as possible. I think all fiction should be as accurate to real life as possible,
Yeah, that's a
and
great
it's
point.
it's
I don't even like.
irresponsible that
Okay,
sometimes fiction isn't.
did not realize you were such an adherent to the Dogme 95 doctrine.
Well, I don't know how you didn't realize that through 100 and some odd episodes of this.
Do you know what that is?
Nope. I was just
Okay.
trying to roll
Dog
with it.
Our listeners may not know either. It's Dogme or Dogma 95 is a film, an independent film movement, like sort of a brutalist film movement of the, let's say, mid to late 90s, I think, that is based on creating cinema with as few trappings as possible. And there's a whole list of rules about it. You can't use external lighting. You can't use any props in the scene that aren't already in the setting. The setting has to be like a real place that's not contrived. The script cannot address anything that is not like achievable in human life or that can take place outside the bounds of the
The
world.
reality
It
of the
goes on from
characters and
there.
stuff. Okay.
I believe it's like Lars von Trier, I think, was one of these sort
Oh,
of
that kind of makes sense. Oh, that now sounds more
Lars.
familiar.
Most of his movies are not in that vein, but I want to say that he was part of the, like, Dogme
I mean,
95
he's definitely got a couple
crew.
that are just watching
Well,
paint
of course,
dry.
it's the
So,
mid 90s because it was in 1995. Yes, it was Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, also known as the Vows of Chastity.
ugh,
Um,
sounds awful.
yeah, shooting must be done on location. Props and sets must not be brought in. The sound must never be produced apart from the images or vice
No ADR.
versa. Music must not be used unless it's diegetic.
Okay.
The camera must be handheld. Any movement or immobility attainable in the hand is permitted. The film must be in color. Special lighting is not acceptable. Optical work and filters are forbidden. The film must not contain superficial action. Weapons, murders, etc. must not occur. Temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden. That is to say, the film takes place in the here and now. Genre movies are not acceptable. The file or the film format must be Academy 35 millimeter, and the director must not be credited. The sort of swearing in oath is, furthermore, I swear as a director to refrain from personal taste. I am no longer an artist. I swear to refrain from creating a quote work as I regard the instant as more important than the whole. My supreme goal is to force the truth out of my characters and settings. I swear to do so by all the means available and at the cost of any good taste and any aesthetic considerations. Thus I make my vow of chastity.
Wow, just make a documentary.
Yep. And there's a number of Dogme numbered films. Dogme number 6 in particular, Julian Donkey Boy, is by Harmony Korine,
Hmm.
who is a do you know Harmony Korine?
Yeah, Spring
Yeah,
Breakers
of course.
and
Spring Breakers, writer of Kids,
yeah,
so on and so forth. Many movies in
kind of
those
a
veins,
kind of
director of a
a
lot of Gummo in
bit of a
particular.
bad boy sort of.
Now he's all out there like the only true art is AI. And I know
Yeah,
it's because he is a literal glutton for confrontation. He did a whole movie, Fight Harm, where he would just go around picking fights with strangers while his friend filmed it from
yeah,
afar
that
and
tracks.
get the shit beat out of him.
He likes to
Anyway,
be a bit of a raconteur of sort of.
he's a
That's
provocateur,
what I
is a
mean.
word I would
That's what
use.
I mean. I meant provocateur, raconteur. Yeah, a bit of a provocateur, kind of.
In a way, we're raconteurs as we spend our time telling this
That
story.
is true. Yeah, a bit of a provocateur, sometimes of bad taste, but
Yes, and a lot of his movies are challenging. Again, much like Problematic Loser, Quentin Tarantino, I find a lot of Harmony Korine's movies extremely compelling. Spring Breakers, I love that fucking
yeah,
movie.
it kind of rules.
I think it's insane. I saw that movie in Times Square, in a theater full of teenagers who were clearly there because Selena Gomez is in that movie.
Yeah,
And the whole time they were like, "Oh my god!" And I was just like cackling. I loved
that
it.
rules.
Supreme
You know,
experience.
there is something to being that kind of force within within any sort of medium. You know, I think that it can be done poorly, but like if you had to pick like a provocateur of comics, who would you? Not of this era necessarily, of any era. Like who would you?
Well, Dave Sim comes to mind.
True,
Um,
but
uh,
do you think? Are you saying more for his like later views or his initial premise?
for his later views, I would say.
Okay,
I think he became a provocateur uh, through publishing work that was designed to get people's attention around those things.
fair,
I think he really believed a lot of that shit. I don't think he's like
right,
a, but he's willing. People who are willing to say things intentionally are at least comfortable with them.
sure. I think on some level the Image founders are
Sure,
provocateurs. Maybe not.
Rob Liefeld is absolutely a
eh,
comic book
That is
provocateur.
true.
I mean, even I'm talking about his personality,
Sure,
even his work. His work, whatever work has actually happened over the course of the last many years.
Major X.
Yeah. He sells a lot more than he creates, and that's him.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of saying like all of the Image guys. I feel like the Image revolution is sort of a provocateurist movement
Well,
in
sure. I
its
guess I'm talking about
inception.
sure. I think so, but I don't think many of the comics or the actual work is challenging the sensibilities of the readers so much as playing into them.
Hmm.
Whereas a provocateur is someone who invites argument. You know what I mean? And a provocateur is someone who says things they know will shock and upset people
True.
for that. Morton Downey Jr. is kind of the like all time king of the provocateurs, which I'm sure you know who Morton Downey
Yeah.
Jr. is, being from New York. Um, for our listeners, in the 70s and 80s, he was essentially a TV shock jock. He would have really people with really wild stories or really mundane stories to get wild reactions on his show, and he would be like, lesbian KKK members are knife fighting with dogs, and everybody who watched it would be somehow offended by it, and that was the point, was to like engagement bait and rage bait.
Yeah.
I would say being a provocateur is a lot about rage baiting people, if we're going to get into the sort of semantics of it in a way, because I think anyone who is a fantasist, a
I,
fictionalist, a storyteller is in a way a provocateur
Sure.
because you want a reaction.
Well, I think that when I talk about when I say image, I know that like we don't see it as challenging now, but I do think that it was challenging to what the mainstream. I understand that they were the members of the comic book
Well,
community who
you
were
know,
making up the
maybe
mainstream.
in a cultural way, more on
Yeah,
an industry
on a
level, they
on a
weren't
smaller
definitely
scale,
like, well, I would say they were industry provocateurs, maybe not like in the
artistic.
work so much,
Yeah,
but like, yeah, well, and trying to just be like, we're doing something so iconoclastic in this industry, which is taking matters into our own hands and not creating a union, but creating a corporation that favors all of us. I think that any person who deals in fiction in particular and storytelling, or even who has to hawk their own career, is in many ways a propagandist for a
yeah,
point
of
of
course,
view.
that's true.
And so like, and I don't mean that in a negative way of they're like, it's not political, bro. Don't take it politically, okay? I don't mean that politically. What I mean is like, you have to be an advocate for your own work and you have to sell your work as something you see as good and worthy. You have to be your own biggest supporter. You have to be, you have to be a salesman for yourself. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. And I think in that way, there is a provocative element to any kind of creative endeavor.
Well,
But I guess
well,
when I think
I
of the
guess
term
I guess
provocateur,
I to
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe our readers will write in and tell me my definition is
but
shit.
I think that the selling yourself aspect of it is sort of the thing that to me ties it to being a bit of a provocateur. Is that
Sure,
like and we've said provocateur so many times. But
it's going to lose its.
yeah, but like even the like, oh, what's gonna happen here? Well, got to read it to find out. Type shit is kind of I think sort of
It's
the
evocative.
act of shilling this work is sort of can be provocative in its own way.
Sure.
And I don't mean that it offends necessarily, but I do think
No, I mean maybe offends is not quite the wrong word, but I think that like
I think
it
challenges is
forces
the right
people to
word.
engage. Challenges,
And
sure. Yeah.
I think that actually if you look at something and if we want to talk about like work that is challenging, I would say Jonathan Hickman on Hoxpox, that is a challenging direction to
Sure.
throw the X-Men
I
into.
guess I'm also thinking about like provocateur as a personality type and not so much as like the way that, like
I'm sort of thinking
who
of
would I
it about
consider?
in terms of like not a personality type, but more in like I'm going to create this work. I would put Grant Morrison in this camp of like
Sure.
I don't think that they are actively trying to make people angry. I do know that they are going to write the thing they want to write, despite it making people angry.
Well, and also I would agree with that assessment in general, especially of Grant Morrison, because they are particularly gifted at making people ask what their work means
Yeah,
and making people and challenging sensibilities.
yeah.
So in a way I would agree that Grant Morrison is a great comic provocateur. I would say that maybe Warren Ellis has always thought he is.
I think when
I have
I think some of the best Warren Ellis stuff is. I think like something like Transmetropolitan is. I mean I think that that
I
is
could never get into any of that stuff. And of course, fuck Warren Ellis. That dude
yes, absolutely. But
is a shit creep.
if
But I've never been up on his work, I have to say.
I
I've never been a person who has particularly enjoyed it. And it's not like one of those smug like, well, no, I just never was never really a
I I
fan.
I I was very disappointed.
Like Next Wave.
I love Next Wave, although I think it does boom boom a little bit dirty. Uh,
Yeah.
but I was so disappointed in Warren Ellis, and so fuck him. But I grew up with Transmet being such an important comic to me as a journalism major, and bonding with other people who were journalism majors, but not necessarily comic book fans that wanted like a new Hunter S. Thompson and fake fictional Hunter S. Thompson was kind of better. Spider Jerusalem. Anyway,
If I was going to talk about the number one comic provocateur, truly, it's Garth Ennis. It's got to be Garth Ennis. Like everything he does, Hitman, perfect example. Hitman was like, let's make Deadpool R rated.
Preacher, let's give literally a guy an asshole for a face.
Preacher in many ways is the like counterculture version of Spawn, where one man is forced to decide what happens in the apocalypse.
Oh, that's very true. But also even his like big 2 work, Punisher, his Punisher, like,
Oh,
I'm just
absolutely. Punisher Max is still for many people the definitive version that they think of because it's so over the top.
weirdly isn't transphobic.
No, he as a person seems to generally be okay. He's just very
Oh
willing
no!
to go.
w-
Remember Crossed? Do you remember
Oh,
Crossed?
I don't want to get.
Some of
I
the
don't want to
variant
talk
covers
about
of
Crossed.
Crossed are just absolutely fucking and like
but
just
but
absolutely
in
truly offensive.
Punisher, the Russian, the big gigantic like fucking brawler, like gets like
Played by big sexy Kevin Nash in the
yeah,
movie.
right, but he doesn't get breast implants. But in the
Yeah.
comic,
Eh,
they give the Russian breast implants, and then the Russian's like, "Nah, I'm into it. It's cool." And it is played a little bit as a joke, but their identity is not played as a joke. It's just that, like, I don't know. It weirdly kind of
it's weird.
works. I don't know how it
It's how to
works.
edge. It's Garth Ennis is a fantastic edge lord. In the meantime, Pierce, hit me with the credits for Spawn number 167.
Great. This is Spawn 167, The Voice Hearers, Part 2, The Peanut Butter Lady. Presented by Tom McFarlane Image Comics. Story, pencils and inks, lettering, colors, production, and cover, all by the same people. Edited by Brian and Todd. We're going to pick up at Joe's Bar.
Yep, we've all been there, Joe's Bar in downtown
Many
Manhattan. I've
such
definitely had
cases.
my share of Boilermakers in there, bud. So, yeah, someone's sitting here in the shadows, a guy in a business suit wearing black gloves, talking to just some random schlub. I like that there is brand smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes. Cigarettes, by the way, fucking terrible for you. La Cigarette, my band, fucking great for you. Coolbutrude.com. Check it. So this kind of mystery guy is talking to this sort of schlub. They're talking about the whiskey, waxing like poetic about the taste of whiskey with ice, which I get it. I used to love my scotch before I became a teetotaler.
We're starting to learn also a little bit about the kind of post white light, post Armageddon way that people see the world. Because
In a way, it's almost like the beginning of Avengers Endgame, where people are like trying to figure out how to move forward after an actual
yeah,
apocalypse.
100%. And you know, this guy even says, he's like, "Oh, I used to drink to, wow, I don't know, numb the senses so I could fool myself into thinking I wasn't actually a pathetic loser. But now the veil's lifted. I know myself. I'm still a loser, but I accept it. No regrets, no guilt. That's all gone." My wife,
You didn't have to go through heaven and hell for that, bud. You just needed to take 3.5 grams of mushrooms,
men will live through live through Armageddon before going to therapy.
or even just fucking taking a mushroom trip. Or, what you shouldn't do is go get ayahuasca therapy because that's usually done by fucking white colonizers who will poison you to death.
Is that what happened to Aaron Rodgers?
Probably. Ron Rodgers.
And so this guy asks, like, "Well, you know, that's me. I've got this like post Armageddon
Got a
clarity.
shitty wife.
What's up?
Yeah.
Like, what's your deal?" And we see a familiar goatee, and he says, "Oh, I never had a problem with guilt." And it slowly becomes clear who this is.
Yes, it's Jason Wynn. And he's saying, "You want to know who made the whiskey taste different?" And the guy says, "Jesus," because Jason Wynn holds up his hands and they are stained completely red. And he says, "You want to know who did this to me?" And I like that his Jason Wynn is a little bit Jonathan Frakesy,
Yeah,
you know,
little
a little bit maybe.
not Alfred Molina. A little
No, but
Orson
he's just got
Welles. He's
that
got a little Orson Welles going
little
on.
Orson Wellesy. Yeah, he's got a specific face. But he says, "You want to know who did this to me?" And we get this nice parallel on the next page of Spawn's face right up in Twitch's face.
A plus panel.
And
A plus page.
Twitch says, "Al, please listen to me." And He says, "The name is Spawn, and I am not your nursemaid." This first panel is so great. I love Spawn's skull face here, and I love the like green energy rising in his throat. It is such a perfect little accent that adds so much to like the moment. It's just right. Um, and then we get this great panel of Spawn like rising up in the chains with his fucking like cape, looking very like Dracula.
He's
And
falling like, so we've met this version of Al before, right? He's rejected the Al Simmons of himself. He's only Spawn. Don't call him Al. He's only Spawn now. We're kind of going back to that version of him. And this does still feel a little bit like David Hein moving the chess pieces around, because there's like a story he's trying to get to, but he needs to make sure readers understand, like, I'm not skipping any steps. I'm getting him to a place where the story I
right.
want to tell is going to make sense.
And also, to be fair, as we will learn coming up, he is very much moving towards a lot of the subplots that were left
Yeah.
dangling by Armageddon. I want to say really quick before we move on, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show before, but sometimes when I see Spawn like rising like a creature like that, I just think I hate how much that would be part of my like idealized self-identity. Just being able to lurk and loom that effectively with I wouldn't be Spawn, but I'd wear his clothes.
I love what I love about this panel is he looks inhuman. And that has been
Yes.
something that Haberlin's version of Spawn constantly exudes.
He is monstrous.
He doesn't see himself as human, and so on the page he
But
does not
he's
look human.
but when you look at this panel in particular, I'm going to gush on this for a second. You can see the way that the chains and his cape and his body and his face are all really kind of merged together into this almost elemental presentation of what Spawn is. Love it. Works great for me.
Also,
Twitch
shout
is
out to Haberlin for drawing this many fucking chains in these 2 issues. Holy
I
shit.
know, dude. The inking team
Not
really
team,
pulling
it's
weight.
just Haberlin.
Oh, it is? Oh, my bad. Just
Just
Haberlin.
Haberlin.
That makes so much sense. Somehow I didn't clock that when we started. That's my bad. We did the credits for this issue, right?
Yeah, they're the
The
same.
peanut butter lady. Oh, that's right. Who is the dedication? I don't remember.
Dedication for this one is Philip Tan.
Oh,
Dedication for the
how
last
about
one was
that?
James Haberlin. I forgot to say it.
Okay.
Related to Brian Haberlin, I'm sure.
Just out of curiosity. Yeah. So Spawn is like, listen, why did you come to me with this? One murder and one self mutilation. You nodded up to demonic possession. And Twitch says, well, yeah, sure, but that was day one. I I like this because this is what it seems like to talk down someone you know who's just like keyed up, where they're like, why'd you come to me? This is not important. He's like, yeah, I know. I haven't finished.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get a series of stories here about things that happen in the apartment building. This guy, okay, slight content warning for harm against infants. Go through this very quickly. This guy wakes up because his baby is crying. His wife asks him to take care of it, and instead of helping the baby, he does away with it, and
In the
then just
foreground,
goes
we get a
back to
Mr. Potato Head with clearly like a clown mask, the blue M
yeah.
on his face. So we know that there's some influence happening here.
There's something going on. Yeah, and she tragically goes back to bed, and she says, "How about that? Congratulations, honey. You're now officially a good father." And then it says at 7 a.m. she woke from her first decent night's sleep in over 9 months. At 7:15, she leapt to her death from the window of her child's nursery. Uh, Here we get a one-page sequence that is extremely transphobic. I'm not even going to describe what happens in it because I don't fucking want to. I'm going to say two things. Go ahead,
I
Pierce.
was just going to say, we're not going to describe it because it actually doesn't matter. You could cut this
It
page.
doesn't even fucking matter. It
You
is
could cut this page entirely and it would not change anything about this story. Continue.
extremely transphobic. Uh we talked extensively about the shorthand of trans identity and trans presentation, cross dressing, these sort of things, as shorthand for madness and for horror and insanity and criminality all the way back. And I want to say maybe episode 2 or 3 of this podcast where we talked about Billy Kincaid, the first appearance, which spawned 5, I think.
Yeah.
So that would be episode 2 of this podcast. We talked at length about this, and
Probably
it's
3.
come up before as well. It might have been 3. Yes, sorry. And I don't want to reiterate it all. What I do want to say, and I'm going to say this as cleanly as possible, is fuck the version of David Hine that wrote this. Fuck the version of Brian Haberlin that drew this. Fuck the version of everybody that was involved in this stupid, shitty page. I will give them the charity of thought that I do not imagine they would do this little vignette the same way again. But I hate this page.
Yeah, it sucks.
And I just will give, if you read it yourself, maybe it won't hit you the same way, but as a trans person, especially right now, where like the idea of being trans is being equated with mental illness that can be stamped out, and there is an active trans genocide rising across this country that understandably is not the primary concern in terms of genocides right now, but is very real. It is a legislative genocide where they are trying to wipe out trans people, forcibly detransition people. And reading this in 2026, I don't want to go back. I'm not willing on this page to go back and be like, well, it was 20 years ago. I don't give a fuck. I hate it. I'm tired of expressing that about shit that directly offends me like this.
I agree. It sucks. And I would hope that everybody involved, if they look back at this, would go, ooh, we fucked that one up.
This is
We don't know.
provocateur shit.
It,
Let me rephrase. This is provocative in a way that I think is meant to be provocative in a very edgelord kind of juvenile look at human darkness kind of way. That's how it always comes off.
I think it's just immature. I think it's just, unfortunately, you would get this episode of Law and Order. You would get this episode of The Shield. You would get this episode of NYPD Blue.
Well, and nowadays we get the whole fucking Ed Gein Who Fucks miniseries.
Right. And so
it is such a strange.
I'm not trying to forgive the version of these creators that created this. However,
I'm specifically not forgiving that version of these creators, but I'm not preemptively like.
I'm not either. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is.
Well, yeah, of course. I know you are. I know you are.
But what I'm saying is that it's unfortunate that something like this is included. I understand the shorthand that they're going for because popular media representation of trans people in 2007 aligns with this representation.
Yes. And again, we talked about this at length very early on in this podcast. So if you want a much deeper discussion of that, if you have, I assume you've probably
listened. It would be weird to listen to this one and not have listened to that one, but yeah, if you haven't,
maybe people jump in. That's fine. But if you want to hear that discussion, you can either listen to or revisit that episode because we do go in depth about the problematic portrayal of trans people in media. Here we're going to move on. Twitch is basically saying in 4 days within a single apartment building of 56 households, we have 7 murders, 3 suicides, and 15 serious injuries. So how does that add up? And Spawn says he didn't clear the building. And Twitch is explaining the tenants don't want to leave. There's no evidence of health hazard, and there isn't a city ordinance to cover mass insanity. So all they can do is advise the occupants to find alternative accommodation. Meanwhile, the woman we saw earlier inside, that we saw in the first issue with the roach spray, is saying she's not going to leave her apartment. And it's Sam talking to her. He's saying, ma'am, I'm just trying to... And she says, this is about the rent overcharge complaint, isn't it? That weasel of a landlord. He's like, no, I'm a police officer. And she says the white light was supposed to clean everything, get rid of the scum, bring a real rain. She doesn't say that, but I'm adding that as a tax driver quote. There's been a number of incidents, murders, ma'am. And she's saying she's just complaining about the roaches. She's rent stabilized. She says, I don't care what kind of vermin you send in here, roaches, weevils, bedbugs, rats. I'm ready. Which, I mean, God, in 2026, if you got a fucking rent controlled apartment in Manhattan or whatever, absolutely do not blame you for being like, they'll fix the roaches one day. Fuck you.
And also, it's super real that people will literally, they'll be like, this building is marked to be demolished, and they're like, I am not leaving. You're lying to
Because
me.
where are they going to
Well,
fucking go?
no, but it's because that's
Well,
what
not even that,
but
but
that's what
yeah, of course.
landlords will pull that shit where they'll send somebody in like a high vis vest, and they're like, "Excuse me, we're
Yeah.
demolishing this building or whatever. You have to leave," or and like
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
it's
exactly. Because
fucked up.
landlords are the fucking scum of the earth.
Yeah. So
Even the quote unquote good ones are still fucking landlords. Anyway, we get inside this lady's apartment and she has these 2 cans of roach spray. She goes over to her garbage chute. If you've never lived in an apartment building that has them, garbage chutes are literally just drawers that you open with chutes that go down to a garbage collection in the basement, usually a dumpster or whatever.
yeah, she's singing Frank Sinatra as she does so.
Yeah, yeah, I've got you under my skin. I've got you so deep in the heart of me that you're really a part of. I've got you under my
We're gonna
skin.
get
There's a great
we're gonna get taken down for
I
copyright.
only did 5 words. 6. Uh there's a great Muppets uh with that
Who's your
in it.
dream? Did you watch the new Muppet Show?
No.
Oh, you should. It's great.
No reason not to. I just haven't yet.
Oh, well, you should. It's great. Sabrina
Were you
Carpenter.
going to ask me fuck Mary kill?
No, I was gonna ask you who's your dream now if Seth Rogen gets to continue the Muppet Show. Who's your dream
Oh.
host and musical guest for? They don't have to be both. You could do, 2 separate ones.
Right. That's tough. Probably Timothy Chalamet for both. No,
Doing Bob Dylan covers,
just whatever he
or
wants.
doing his rap songs.
Oh,
Little,
perfect. Even better.
little Timmy Tim. I know you're a big. I know you're a big Little Timmy Tim fan.
Oh my God. In no way is he Kendall Roy. No. Let's see. Musical guest, Faytooth
Okay.
would be fucking sick.
Do you think that
And
they would have
then
fun interactions with the Muppets? Okay,
yes,
cool.
yes.
And
That's
then
why
host
I
though,
think they would, or Die Spitz would also be really good.
they're gonna be here in November. I think I'm gonna try and go see them.
Oh fuck yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be sick. Good band. Great group.
Host?
It's tough because I hate celebrities,
Yeah, but
and
it can just be
I
it
don't
can be an
fucking want to
artist
see
though
any of them. Guess.
of some
Huh.
acclaim. They have to be good on
Boy, that's
camera.
tough.
So
I'm trying to think. Maybe Donald Glover would be good.
yeah, there you go. That would actually be
I
excellent.
guess he could also be the musical guest.
Well, you've nailed it on both
Sure.
accounts. For me,
You know who else would be a great musical guest? Or maybe I just want to listen to them now is Lambrini Girls. You ever listen to Lambrini
no,
Girls?
I got to check them out.
Fucking look up, early recommendation, look up Lambrini Girls. Don't wait.
I want Future Islands as musical guest. Mostly because I was listening to them today and I was like, or Amel and the Sniffers.
Oh, that would be
so good.
sick. That would be sick. Viagra Boys. I guess I just want all the weird punk
Weird,
bands
cool
and
punk
shit to go
bands
on
would be the best.
Yeah.
And then for host is tough, but
Honestly, if fucking Sebastian, what's his name from Viagra Boys, the singer of Viagra Boys did it, that would be fucking hilarious. You ever watched any of their videos?
No. I've listened
Really
to
good.
them, but I've never watched their videos.
Their videos are all fucking
I'll be
great.
honest.
The video for Bog Body,
I would want friend of the pod, Chris Gethard to host the
that's such a
Muppets.
fun idea. That would be great.
And
you know what? It's 90 minutes into this podcast right now.
Because he has big Kermit energy.
He does. That's
true.
That's
keep
true.
a show together and put a show on, right? So, anyway.
By the way, fuck Mary Kill would obviously be fuck Animal, marry Miss Piggy, and I hate to say it, but kill Kermit because that's the only way you're keeping Miss Piggy.
Oh, hold on. First of all, it's fuck Animal, yeah, of course.
Or Gonzo.
No, marry Gonzo.
You could
You
marry
kill
Gonzo,
Miss
I
Piggy.
guess. No.
Yeah.
Oh, you become her.
Well, that's the only way you can.
That's
Yeah.
how you win the game.
Correct.
I have Miss Piggy dysphoria. Legitimately, I would love to look like Miss Piggy. Well, maybe not the pig part, but
Throw everything we got at
such a
Keanu.
great. She's on Icon. So she opens the garbage chute and says, "All right, you sons of a bitches, you evil little varmints," and she starts spraying down the hole, going, "Die, you filth! Die, you filth!" And we see these hordes of roaches coming out and swarming over her. Among them, one little roach with a blue M and little red eyes, which is picked up as evidence. Twitch shows it to Spawn and says, "You remember the blackout when half of New York City went crazy? Hundreds of citizens painted their faces with clown makeup and ran riot, aka SantaCon." And remember that weekend I visited you at Santa, like it was SantaCon weekend, and it was fucking hell on earth.
Terrible.
It was like the Santa rapture had happened, because you'd be walking down the street and there would just be discarded Santa costumes like in snowbanks everywhere. It was hilarious. Also a fucking nightmare. Anyway, he says, same markings, and Spawn says it wasn't paint. And he says, "You know what's causing this, right? You're going to help us." And Spawn takes his head in his hands, almost gently, and says, "I'm tired, Max. I saved this world, but I didn't turn it into paradise. I brought you all back, and that includes the bad and the ugly. I can't wave a magic wand and make all your troubles go away. You're a cop, do your job. I don't care anymore. I just want to be left alone." And Twitch, kind of cuttingly, double-edged, says, "Thanks for saving the world, by the way. I appreciate it."
Yeah. We're back to this sort of like very self-pitying Spawn that I don't know that I really like love.
I don't even know if he's self-pitying in this point. He's just kind of fucking like
Over it.
super angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just super angry. And like, I don't mind, because the way that it's set up, and especially the way this arc is drawn, it's great.
Yeah.
Um
We cut back to Joe's bar, and a couple of government agents, Agent Wolf says the lost sheep has been found, and they're bringing in Mr. Jason Wynn. And the guy he's been talking to is like, "Wait, what? What's going on? You're a real like big shot." And
yeah,
he
and he goes, I fear that I have been a little indiscreet." And it turns out he's told this dude, for whatever reason, everything about Spawn and
everything.
demonic possession. And because, as we'll recall, the last time we saw Jason Wynn before the apocalypse, he was sharing his body with Clown.
Right.
He was possessed by the Clown, excuse me. So now it seems to be he's red-handed, but he's not the Clown
Right.
anymore.
And
we've seen some of that.
And
But
these,
you know who he looks like? You know who Jason Wynn looks like on this one page with the green light? Well, he's like fucking Dave Navarro.
He does kind of, yeah.
Like if Dave Navarro loved donuts.
So
I do.
the agents take Jason Wynn outside, and he's like, "Oh, I know I'm being a pain in the ass, but I know that I'm very important or whatever." The agents are taking care of the kind of guy that he was hanging out at the bar with, but then there's a green light. Suddenly, both of the agents have green light coming out of their eyes and mouths, and
their faces melt off all fucking like, it's awesome. Their faces just burn off like Ghost Rider, but negative.
Yeah.
Like but bad for you. And Spawn appears. Don't necessarily love the proportions of this, but I'll forgive it, because this is such a sick
Looks
fucking
cool as hell.
drawing. And his textured inks in the back are so great
Yeah.
that I almost wonder,
The
like,
cape looks insane.
I almost wonder if some of these are like photostat images or something that
Like
he
a texture kind of laid over.
collaged
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, like they could
It's really
could
cool.
easily be. It's really cool. It looks great. So we get this drawing of Sam here where, I don't know, proportions are a little off, but I still love him. And Sam's like, hey, Twitch, good of you to stop by, because Sam's been out by himself investigating all these horrors. And Twitch says, I thought I had a lead. It was a dead end. And Sam is talking about, serial killers, Wilma Barber, the peanut butter lady. This is Barbara wasn't the first. They're talking about the peanut butter lady and what happened with the peanut butter lady. They show her a video of the interrogation. She ground up a bunch of poison a broken glass into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for her husband, forced him to eat it because I guess Earl had to die. And he's like, I don't like the crunchy kind. And she's like, that's all I got.
Yep.
And then it turns out the crunch is glass.
And he dies
And
from just
it
swallowing
turns out
glass, which is a gnarly way to kill somebody.
They call him a speleologist, by which I think they mean spelunker, because they say he's an explorer of caves. And he said, my husband came home early. It was the only way out of the apartment. Oh, no, this is a different story. I'm sorry. What? No, I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, this is the same story.
This is the same story. Sorry. No, she's talking about her husband eating this thing of broken glass, and she's saying, I hate him. I've hated him for years. And Sam asks, so why now?
Yeah.
And she says, Barney told me, not the dinosaur. She explains that Barney was her secret affair partner, her lover. And one day when her husband came home early, Barney, being a spelunker, jumped down into the garbage chute. He said it would be easy for him to just work his way down and get out at the bottom. He said he'd call me. A couple nights later, he hadn't called, and she realized that she thought she heard something in the chute. She calls down to him, seeing if he's alive. And she says, all the bad stuff happened. I got real sick, and I didn't think about Barney anymore. Then there was the white light. We learned all the stuff that happened with Barney happened before
all of Armageddon,
the rebirth. And so that's going to be important later. Meanwhile, the lady who has been pouring fucking roach spray down her garbage chute, she wakes up after assumedly having, knocked herself out with gas, and she hears scratching in the garbage chute, and she says, thought you'd catch me napping, didn't you? I see you down there. Now come on up and see what I've got for you. And we look down, and I love this sequence. This is such a great little 3-panel sequence of a horrifying corpse covered in roaches climbing up the garbage chute. And she screams, and her head is pulled into the garbage chute. She pulls back the bloody stump. Love this. This is perfect fucking like straight to video horror movie like weirdness. I love it. Love this page. Also like the next page where we see jumping out of the garbage chute, which is spouting fire and now has the word hell written above it, probably in blood. We see crouching there clown yelling showtime, but it's not the clown we've seen before. It's a new clown who has moved on,
kind of a version of Barney,
presumably. Yes, the implication is that it seems that Barney, his body is down there, and we'll get more into the details of that in the next issue. Rarely, in a rare case, I have read the next issue ahead because we thought about covering it tonight, and now that we're an hour and 40 minutes into this shit, I'm really glad we didn't even try.
Yeah, agreed. Well, we
gotta keep final thoughts kind of brief. We've done a lot of thoughts.
We had more to talk about than we thought, but I'll get into final thoughts. I have said this many times. I ended up liking this more than I thought I did when we talked about it. And I think it's mostly that I don't like the third issue very much, and I hate that one scene in this issue, but I like kind of everything else happening.
Sure, I like the third issue fine. We'll get into it. And that one page, I'm trying not to sell the whole thing short based on that. But if this were the podcast Kill James Bond, where they rate things with the scum score, which is smarminess, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence, and misogyny, they give each one a score. This one would have a pretty high caveat in that, maybe cultural insensitivity and misogyny
Fair
labels. So
anyway, this is definitely like a getting pieces back on the board type of issue. That's what this arc kind of exists to do, is like, okay, if we closed off Heaven and Hell, did we really close off Heaven and Hell? But we got Sam.
When you look at it, when you look at it with just the vignettes kind of work for the most part.
Yeah, I think that there is a more elegant way to do this, but we got what we got. So, excited to see what comes next.
We'll see how we feel when we read the third issue again next episode. My final thought, really, to sum it up, is that I loved kind of seeing Brian Haberlin's rendition of all these characters and getting to dig into that and see his takes on Sam and Twitch, his take on Spawn, which I adore.
The Brian Bolland call out was a really good one. Not one that I immediately thought of, but when you brought it up, I was like,
especially that first sequence with like the color washes and the way that it's exactly, really good.
Totally.
So yeah, and I mean, these are good issues. They have, again, their big caveats, but overall I think, much like a Hellspawn story, they're really about what's going on with the things that go bump in the night, and the clown in particular, where Spawn is almost this entity within it.
Yeah, it feels like he's lurking, and we're gonna unleash him.
He's almost like a pinhead in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, George, before we go, do you have any recommendations for our listeners this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you to read some old school Teen Titans, New Teen Titans, Marv Wolfman and George Perez era, and after that too, a lot of Wolfman. Go ahead and read some of that. I was reading it the other night, and I was like, this fucking kicks ass.
Hell
this is just great comics.
Hell yeah. I am going to recommend Abruptio again. I know I talked about it earlier, but that movie was fucking weird. And I'm gonna recommend Tubi as a whole because
hell yeah, we've recommended Tubi so many times. I keep getting ads for new ones like Fubo and Boober and Doodang.
Tubi. I was talking to a buddy of mine. Oh, you know what? This will be my real recommendation. I recommend the band Standoffish. My buddy Josh.
Okay.
If you like Lifetime, Early Saves the Day, that kind of pop punk.
I saw Lifetime about 10 years ago on their reunion tour at Riot Fest. It was pretty good.
I saw that.
Pretty
good. Saw them at Fest. It ruled. One of my favorite bands. But if you like that kind of like pop punky vibe, kind of like a hardcore adjacent pop punk.
Like that Youth Crew kind of like
super
punk,
melodic, but like still has a little bit of an edge.
Honestly, probably a huge influence on shit like fucking Turnstile now and Military Gun and shit like that.
Totally. So
really paved the way for that version of quote unquote hardcore.
Definitely check out Standoffish if those are the kinds of bands that you like. Thank you all for listening. This one's been a little bit longer than normal, but we really appreciate you listening. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. That's the only way that people find out about our show. We've had a great year so far, and we're hoping to continue it. And hey, by the way, George, happy 2 years. Today's 2 years.
Hey, 2 years, team. We did it. So, what about that? 2 years of growing the Spawn community, and we've gotten, in that time, at least 100 listens.
Totally. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, George, for doing this silly thing with me.
Thank you, Pierce. You do so much work on this podcast. I don't think listeners understand how little I do compared to how much you do.
Hey, you read and talk about it. So
that's right.
That's just as important as what I do. Anyway, George, before we go, for Todd to love the world,
he gave his only begotten Spawn.
See you later, Hellspawn.
Spawnography! Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.